has one shot left if they want to turn this series around and have a chance of taking out Roll20. Roll20 is looking dominant, very good. They have corrected all the issues, the problems of bringing someone new in, right? Not necessarily problems, but the adjustment period for them seems like it is going very well now as we get closer to the end of part 1.
I do want to say I agree, but I also want to be like, what if part of, I feel like part of that is because Team Freedom, okay, so the biggest way to exploit Roll20's sufferings of bringing on to Goku is rolls. But Team Freedom is restricted enough in their new, phase 2 drafting that they actually just don't have enough to push Roll20 into lack of comfort, and that Roll20, in fact, is the one pushing it the other way around. I feel like that's a lot of it. I feel like if Freedom, had more time, had bigger roster pools, I can see that kind of, teams looking towards Glaurung and Goku's overlap of hero pools. That is when they've looked the weakest. But Freedom just can't do that. They don't have enough resources available.
Well, that is very consistent with Team Freedom that we've known in the past. They start out really strong at the beginning of a part, and then because they don't consistently push their adaptation in drafting, they hit a point where teams have figured them out. So then I would counter your counter and say Roll20 is facing them because they are at a time when they've basically already played a lot of other people, and so they've had time to be able to research and had the series to research of Team Freedom.
Yeah, so buying that bit of time. Either way, Freedom has shown very consistent trending over longer amount of time than most teams in North America. So much so, I'm suddenly concerned for them more than I am excited. I know it's only 2 games, and I feel like it's still anybody's series. I mean, obviously, it's weighted towards that of Roll20. I don't count Freedom out at all, but I am concerned towards how good is the team. That was the question. Is this a bit of a fluke? So much so that they were even, you heard Cure responding about his desire for validation that they would get if they were able to win the series. But can you imagine the exact feeling that they would get? It's the opposite. If it was 3-0 in Roll20's favor, suddenly they go, well, all it takes is a little bit of time, and eventually somebody figures out Freedom.
And both of these teams play Tempo Storm next, Roll20 even tomorrow. But let's remember that it's not over yet. Game 3 is going to be taking place on Towers of Doom. And that was chosen by Roll20, but is a Freedom favorite.
Towers by Roll20. What an era we live in. In terms of map priority here coming out for Roll20, it's showing
Stitches Medivh.
Stitches Medivh is going to be a very high priority hero. Genji's still really nice. Dahaka still, on the higher end of things. Things that we haven't seen in the last 2 games. Abathur suddenly is an option now that we've found our way to Towers. So much so, I honestly don't think he's even going to make it through the first ban phase almost. I don't know. That's too bold of a prediction considering the last 2 drafts, but I feel like he's got to be something these teams are looking towards.
Uther banned from Freedom, so they are sticking with exactly what they've done before. Roll20 banned Tassadar. Exact same bans.
Team Freedom first picks Genji.
Yep.
Roll20 picks
Stitches.
Stitches what? I forgot what they picked.
Dahaka.
Yeah, Stitches Dahaka. Or Stitches in game 1, didn't they mix it up? They went Stitches something else. Well, never mind. Just sticking to the same thing.
Last time was Greymane Rhaegar.
Yep. And that time before that, it was Greymane Noob?
Rhaegar Noob.
Rhaegar Noob. Sorry, yeah, the Rhaegar was consistent through both. So is it Rhaegar what this time, Team Freedom? Or do they just mix it up in general?
Abathur Noob.
I'd say it's a pretty solid adjustment. Double Genji and you got a new Barak. Suddenly, I was, this rinse and repeat drafting. But Roll20's, do you see how snap banned that was? Is this a bait? It's
For what?
I don't know. But it seems way too predictable to not be calculated by Roll20. After what they showed in game 1 and 2, maybe I'm giving them too much credit here. Might be giving them too much credit here.
Malfurion. And
what?
Greymane?
Like Greymane, I definitely would like to see a Greymane. At least some form. It could be the Li Ming too. Just at least something to have immediate burst. I like the Li Ming purely because of Cocoon on the opposite side of the table.
Yeah, I forgot the Roll20 have been playing her even more. So, and still even after transitioning over to having Goku.
But either one of those heroes just bursts to the Stitches hook, I think is going to be very, very important for them. The Malfurion rotation makes the most sense. They're going to Li Ming and Greymane take both right off the table, leaving that support for the very last pick.
Rhaegar. And
I mean, Arthas wouldn't be too bad, but you know, you don't have any consistent range at that point in time. It comes down to how much pressure do you think is going to be onto a new Barak, and I'm here to tell you, the answer is about
a lot.
Yeah, it's he's about to get 100-0'd in half a second if Greymane and Li Ming have their way. So I would like to, you either get something to save him, or you pick another threat to where it's like, well, at least we might be able to take that sustained long fight, having the Abathur, having the double Genji, and Arthas slowing, sustaining it out. But he's also very susceptible to that type of play. So, what do we see here, Freedom? You could just Diva. I feel like is just what is gonna maybe happen. It makes the most sense because you can throw that body out in front. It can receive the most amount of pressure. Never cease to amaze, Freedom. Tychus and Malf.
The only thing I was wondering about with Diva is hero-wise, Nasmus is generally the Abathur player, if not Cure.
Yep.
So then it would put Dainsky on Genji, Nasmus on Abathur. No, wait, Nasmus on Diva, and then Genji played by Cure. So the Abathur changing up, I guess, what they're feeling comfortable and confident about getting Diva and Rhaegar last pick for Roll20.
I'm going to be honest, you know, I feel like, man, I don't know. I'm torn. I felt like I had strong emotions one way or another in this because the Tychus Malfurion being so not what you would assume, like, that's not very Team Freedom. It's not bad. It's just, again, you can tell that they were jarred a bit into the draft and bullied around. But then I look at the first 3 picks and I go, but that's enough for about anybody to get a win. Like, I mean, you just goof a smidge on the side of Roll20, they can win the whole game. Make one guy overextend too far, and it's like, shing! Oh, there comes the double reset. Shing! Oh, there it goes again, and the whole fight's over. So, like, I don't know. I felt like originally I was like, the bullying that Roll20 instilled, again, is going to see a slow drop-off in play from Team Freedom. And I feel like that's probably going to be the case because, again, that's what we got in game number 1 and 2. But those 3 heroes, much like we saw in the Niventic series, you know, where they eventually hit the draft where it's like, that's enough to be able to get the win. I feel like this is definitely enough for Freedom to be able to get a win.
Yeah, safer play will be required from our Genji player since he's with Malfurion not having the ancestral healing, but there is a second Genji who can draw a lot of the ire of Roll20. Let's get into game number 3 and see if Team Freedom can take us to game 4. I hope they do. I'm ready for more games.
You know what's dope about Stukov and Genji together?
What's that?
That you just don't even have to be near them. You just go ahead and you go, he's hanging out next to you and he's like, hello, I would like to go kill those bad guys over there. And he's the only support where you go, you know what, I'm going to throw this thing on top of you. You zoom out, do your thing, and let me know when you need my passive proc. I'll just go ahead and flat drop that off.
Have you been enjoying playing Stukov?
I am absolutely losing my soul out here. I have so much to say about him.
He's really fun.
He is. A lot of fun here. One of my favorite supports probably released him and Lucio. You know, I've been pretty hyped over both of those, obviously. Lucio, he had his day. Short-lived, but in fact, it was probably more of a minute, you know, maybe a moment, but Stukov soon to be here at HGC. We got him in, what, 2 weeks, I believe?
I don't know if he's allowed, but that patch, I believe, is next weekend.
Yeah, Stukov won't be. It's just be on the patch. So that means we won't even have it up until either tiebreakers or international play. Even more exciting. Let's go.
Yeah, I am getting very pumped for the Western Clash and the Eastern Clash. And there is, we had announcements actually this week that the it's going to be free. Attendance is free for both. So that's super awesome. If you guys want to find out more about where those are going to be held, all the information's on our website.
Roll20 shifting things up there a little bit with the level 1 on Rhaegar. Trying to... It's not, again, it's one of those things where it's not necessarily that wild, but it's also not the standard anymore. Since the nerf to general, okay, the like second nerf to the mount phase and then seeing the Ghost Wolf being affected after that, it's not been picked up too much. and there aren't any like Stitches hooks or very, you know, apparent I need to dodge this on the side of Team Freedom.
Yeah, maybe just wanting to have the extra mobility to go between lanes or try to run away if he's being chased down by a Genji, a double Genji even.
Yeah, that's a good point, you know?
And it's less of a wave clear map. It's a lot about fighting over the altars in this one, sort of like a Sky.
It's all about the battle. Who to watch is going to be Cure. No surprise. He's got himself the Genji, 5-2 with a KDA of 10. Conveniently, in this game, he's got a bit of help. That symbiosis that we'll see over his head in most of the game. No surprise, in North America, like clockwork, we have the Towers of Doom cycle begin. Both teams grabbing their respective sapper camp as the minute that they can. The altars are up. And what do we see in terms of rotation? Traditionally, Team Freedom would be forfeiting one of these two, or one of these three, excuse me. And only picking up one for themselves just because they have the Abathur. But Nasmus getting confident. He's going to start off, and he's going to get away with it.
And that's because Genji is slowing things down over on the side, but Dahaka is brush talking over to Abathur. Nasmus does not get the deep tunnel away. He will be taken out. First blood does not bode well for Team Freedom.
I love it. This is Roll20 just going like, we see you playing here. We know what you're trying to make happen, but just next leveling there. Now Prismat looking to move over, help join in. It's a 2v2, but one that Roll20 cannot claim their own. Luckily, they could do so up on bottom. Beautiful range, or max range interrupt there from Collusion, but it's the last one that they have. So maybe not how we expected to get here, but we did get to the standard of what you'd expect of Abathur on Towers of Doom in terms of shots.
Yeah, losing Abathur was not the optimal result for Team Freedom, but it was a cool game plan that they felt like maybe they could contest long enough using Genji just long enough to delay at the safe one and making sure that they could have people still contesting over bottom. But importantly for Team Freedom, after they lost that one, they were still able to get one of the 3 altars and they didn't lose anybody else.
It's going to be the Adrenal Overload there at 4. Also, we got actual moon burn, excuse me, in this game.
Yeah.
It's been such a rare talent to see in North America for the most part. We'll be keeping track of that. But I just thought it was cool, the Adrenal Overload, even with the, you know, the fact that they have the Tychus on the team. If we see the Odin coming out, Adrenal Overload on top of the Tychus Odin is probably my favorite hat target period, or at least when I'm playing it to be targeted, other than maybe Illidan. But Illidan kind of becomes, he goes from like good to unstoppable in about half a second. Yeah,
good point. Adrenal Overload potentially on Dansky, and it may even be that there is a clone on Dansky too, so that they can have minigun along with the Odin. Team Freedom catches Stitches, the turn of the tide, gets a kill, importantly catching up in experience and at level 7.
Dahaka's kind of, oh wow, Zugrug going for that confident initiation there. Nice root, rebuttal, Dansky moving up, trying to get the minigun damage out. Not enough to scare anybody away. Last Zapper, not gonna make it in there. Everybody turning on that.
No Mule this time for Abathur.
Hat build, full damage.
Back to Needle Spine. We'll see what the choice is at 13. Usually, when you're full hat build, it's still been Soma Transference over getting spatial efficiency for the second charge and cooldown reduction of the stab. And this time, also Strangling Vines, so some healing reduction from Collusion's Malfurion. Also, it's Malfurion played by Collusion, so we have to be keeping track of his Twilight Dreams. They are fierce. They are so scary. You
know, you're just talking about the level 7 there for Collusion with the healing reduction. And Stitches just attempted to get the self-heal using his E, and immediately it was just like, that's like 5 HP whenever this talent is active, allowing them to be able to get the kill. Nice setup here for Team Freedom. Goku? Choo.
Nasmus has been playing with fire.
Yeah, or he's just, you know, I feel like Goku, showing why he's one of the most intimidating Dahakas in North America there. The fact that, you know, the Abathur twice is already trying to escape with its life, cannot move out past those forts.
Teams are going to fight once again, and Buds this time is the one who gets caught in the roots. Collusion's Malfurion is out of control, taking out the support. Dansky's getting fairly low. Roll20 has done a lot of great damage, especially Prismaticism. But Team Freedom is the one who gets the kill.
Freedom now has a half-level lead. They are winning over the early game.
I love that they waited this out.
I mean, I'm just honestly going, like, I'm trying to figure out where Roll20 recovers, because the fact that this game, experience-wise, is working out for Freedom, they're now going to win, at least restore a bit of the balance when it comes over this up on mid.
Team Freedom.
I mean, oh, man.
It was just so cool to see them wait this out. Yes, they took out Buds, but they didn't get hasty. They were low on mana on Collusion, so effectively almost no support versus no support. A lot of the health bars were low too. They knew Prismaticism was, if she could get one kill, likely to get a lot of resets that would allow Roll20 to catch up in experience, but Team Freedom had the experience advantage. They got heroic abilities, and then in that amount of time, were able to get the kill, or get the altar. Nazmus is going to lose this clone rather quickly. It was a clone on Dansky's Tychus.
Odin gets dragged in, but again, not maybe the target you want. Cure has the hat, Justing falling pretty low along with Goku. No cooldowns burnt on the side of Roll20 though, other than the adaptation. So just a bit blow for blow, the trades there, but the patience out of Freedom when it comes to their decision making has definitely developed. Now they move up to the Sapper. It started, but Roll20 sniffs it out, moves up, and they'll say thank you for the camp.
Now, Roll20 have Gorge and did not use it in their last fight, and that Gorge is an issue for some of the members of Team Freedom, specifically Malfurion. If he comes out of it, might be able to drop a Twilight Dream, but if he is in a really bad place, it's going to be rough for him. But once he gets 13, he can get Ice Block, and that might buy some time for the team to be able to catch up and get to him, and even capitalize off of that Twilight Dream with the Dragon Blade.
Oh, the Cocoon's there. The root will be there, but nobody else. So, just reactionary to the Stitches hook, and now it's 50 seconds where the Gorge is going to gain value, because in game number 2, we witnessed so many opportunities where Justin was like, well, I'm going to drag this person, I'm going to Gorge this person, and they were like, well, I can Cocoon you in place. Now, 37 seconds where Roll20 should be very successful with their Gorge reset composition, the Curse Bullet, Disintegrate. Stars are really aligning for them, and if they fail this, again, losing already to the early parts of an Abathur composition, I feel like their future is going to be rather grim. Go ahead.
In that comp, though, too, Roll20 also had their Medivh, so Team Freedom might be able to, even without Cocoon, still stop things just with the damage and the knock-up that Zugra can do with his Anubarak. We'll have to see the clone's been dealt with. Goku doing some damage to Kier, hits a drag, Prismaticism there too, hoping for a reset.
He might go down himself. Ancestral is still available. He's gonna not use it. Waits last second, and the Twilight Dream is there. Freedom finds themselves Goku, and they might be able to get another. Cura a little bit too low though, have confidence to move in. Curse Bullet hits Collusion, but too late. 4 shots, stomping their way down to the core of Roll20, and now Team Freedom is winning in experience, kills, and when it comes to shots on the core with an Abathur comp. And just now is the point in time where I traditionally go, now I'm worried about Abathur. Things are looking good for Freedom.
Yeah, very important for them to win this game so that they can stay in the series, to get the momentum to go on after losing the last 2 games. There is no buffer zone for them. So they're trying to put on pressure to add to it. They're getting their sappers, considering an invade. Curse Bullet there, scaring off Zugrug from invading in.
I've got to be honest, over the last team fight, a lot of that I feel like came down to Buds and the Ancestral. Too haste, you know, there's sometimes you get an Ancestral and you wait on it to try and bait like the next cooldown, but a lot of it you got to ask yourself, like, even if I baited that, what do I gain into that team fight, right? Let's say the target survives. Did the Twilight Dream and everything, was it going to be worth it? And I feel like in that case, again, it's just more of a feel. It wasn't really going to turn anything by hesitating. Ancestral dropped. The roots were not there, so at least it gained a lot of value. But Justing's so low in HP, I mean, this is just amazing for Freedom.
Oh, Kier is caught with a lot of the members of Roll20 around him. I'm going to use Dragon Blade. Remember, there's no Ancestral to be able to help him out behind it. Collusion has the Twilight Dream available if the team tries to jump on top of Kier. The Ancestral landed this time, and now Buds has Earth Shield, again, to hopefully prime that amount of time so that Ancestral can commit.
There are 2 cooldowns on the side of Team Freedom that I almost never want to be used side by side unless the fight is going to happen, and that's Odin and Dragon Blade. You can lose one and get away with it. Cure to be able to survive, obviously not perfect, but it's sometimes necessary. But you can't burn both because of the adrenal overload. One of the two needs to be able to be the threat with the Abathur hat. Now both go, can I really get away with this? The clone is a bigger target than either one of those, and it's something that I expect Roll20 to try and abuse. First, they're going to start with the Disintegrate and get the delay.
Disintegrate gets one delay, but Team Freedom's zoning is set and secure, so Roll20 will have to be content just to trade out on the altars, which keeps Team Freedom with quite an advantage. 2 altars with normal bell towers advantage. Both are working on getting their sappers. Neither has really been able to get the bell tower game started. You know, we've got Abathur pushing in the top, but Dahaka is always pushing back against that, making sure that there's no free damage on the bell towers. I
did feel like in the long run, due to the lack of Mule on the side of Team Freedom, that Abathur would suddenly find himself struggling on one of the 2 lanes, but Goku is not really pressured too far out onto the top half of the map. Hasn't remained up there as long as you traditionally expect. Look at the bait onto Prismat. They thought that was solo because everybody was abusing fog down below. Really well done from Roll20, not gaining them anything yet. The drag there, and Nubarak, can he go down? He does.
We've got the double Genji too.
Oh, my confidence.
Ancestral hits.
Cure dashed away. He's got the hat, flinging out the shuriken. Prismat out of mana. That's about all he's got, and the deflect is enough.
Glowering still chasing in. This may be the point where finally Roll20 can get some bell tower damage down, but Team Freedom only lost a Nubarak.
I laugh every time I see Chris Bullet. I'm going to be honest. Like, when it's not like in the middle of a team fight blowing up, like when it's just kind of casually thrown out there, the audio is just too iconic. The pew, you know, it's just...
There have been so many this game that's just like, stay. Don't follow us. Don't invade our camp. Don't do this. Just slow down. Slow your roll.
Yeah. It's, and honestly, it's because of the duration of its, or excuse me, because of how short the cooldown is, as we learned in our lessons earlier today, because the shorter the cooldown, the more likely the cooldown is to be up. It's really nice to kind of throw out.
Yeah, just a little pro knowledge there, some pro tips.
Yeah, you know, smarter every day. Odin's down, and it's shown.
They're not going to do their Abathur trick. This time Genji will be the one picking up. Now he's going to use all his mobility to try to get down here at the same time as Dahaka, but Dahaka will get here first. Brush Dock's in, Collusion grabbed.
Oh, that was so close to being the beginning of the end. Roll20, Glarung managed to get the disengage. Cure is now here. Dragon Blade is going to be online now. And suddenly Cure's confident. He's going to cyber agility in. Dragon Blade /1 and 2. Nobody getting hit yet, but the roots lands, and now Justing is punished.
Oh man, there are a lot of low health bars that had me very scared for Roll20. But in the end, Team Freedom are more than happy just to take their Justing kill and 2 of the 3 altars in this phase, getting further and further ahead in core health.
Roll20.
Doubling the health at this point.
Look at this, a bit of panic here that they aren't comfortable just giving up the Sapper camp. They very much feel it is one that they got to deny. Prismat going in, calling out the 1v1 onto Cure. The hat and the deflect kind of balance the scales a smidge. And in the end, Freedom's got themselves a Sapper.
They're ready to close this game out, and it starts with taking control of some of Roll20's bell towers. If they can get this going, if they can keep the pressure on, then they're forcing Roll20 to make some bad decisions about potentially losing on a boss or an altar to try to take back the bell towers, or just fighting over and nullified shots.
He comes in.
Drag.
Max range on Tychus. That's a kill target they want. The Cursed Bullet. Question whether or not it land there. We see the Gilnean Flask. A lot of damage. Ancestral beautifully landing onto Glarung, but we got to keep our eyes on Justing in the front. He drops in the Gorge. That is a collusion. No Twilight Dream is used, and now Team Freedom is down a member. Roll20, this is only a small gap, like a small window. They need to get more than this because, again, of the composition of what Freedom's been able to make happen. 1 kill on a support, that's not all they can get.
No, they have to take out some bell towers. They need to stop the pressure. They need to hit some hooks, and they will. They take out Genji. That is a staggered death that Team Freedom absolutely cannot afford in this series.
They cannot. That was just, I mean, it was really just about the last thing that Team Freedom could want in this point in time. And if anybody wonders why we talk about staggering the deaths, why that's so bad, imagine if this team fight happened and Cure had died at the same time as the Malfurion. Malfurion, alive before the objective itself, but Cure now has 20-second difference, which means he's got 15 seconds later to this actual objective. If you all wipe at once, you have no hope. But when you got one by one, you get this false sense of security where you're like, can we delay this 5 versus 4 long enough? Justing ropes you back in and goes, well, that answers that really quickly.
Hook connects. Zagreb burrow charges out. No shots get through here, but with having the bottom bell tower, Roll20 get an altar that now catches them up somewhat in core health, giving them the 5 shots. Team Freedom are slowing down. They are making sure they didn't lose anybody else there. They did stop from getting the extra 3 shots from the sappers, but other than that, not trying to contest or do anything risky. They know that they're still in the lead, and the best thing for them was to get Cure back, and then as all 5 together, staunch the bleeding.
Let's talk about Sapper. Oh, hold on a minute. You know, I don't understand why I ever wonder, well, if Dahaka can die into small ganks. Like, I should just do basic math. Is it 1 versus 5? If no, Dahaka will live. But I was going to talk about the Sapper compositions. This is something I have never talked about in a draft or into a game. And a lot of it goes like how good you are at defending or sieging with those Sappers and enabling them. Roots is really good defensively. Anubarak is one of the best you can have defensively. Genji, debatable. And Tychus is all right. Stitches, really good to siege in with. And nothing else on the side of Roll20 is that terrifying. So I feel like when escorting those Sappers, which I feel like this game very much could come down to, Team Freedom has a pretty good defense.
Unfortunately for them, they're losing a lot. They lost the boss, all because Roll20 saw that Team Freedom were trying to defend and get back their bell tower bot, and Roll20 responded by getting boss and the top bell tower. Freedom equalizes this by getting the bottom on Roll20 side, and they get 20. So now they're caught up to a place where they can fight. There are 3 shots ahead on the core, and it's back to being anyone's game.
Sappers here up on top. So now what do we see Freedom do with the rotation? What are they going to indicate? Dahaka has displayed himself down on bottom. Cure is now shown up into the top lane. So both teams know where at least one member is. And it looks like it's a trade.
That it is.
Interesting.
Not fighting it out until there's only one altar, and they are made to fight it out. Both teams are going to clear out the respective side of the bell towers so that they can get back to normal. There will be sappers in the bottom. That might be where we see the teams fight, but man, the hooks, the drags of Roll20 are, it's every fight is scary. If they land, then someone's blown up. If not, then Team Freedom can take the fight.
Sapper's moving up. We see Collusion with his talents as he's taking his 16, even bettering his defense into the Sappers. That's what I was talking about before. And they make easy work of it. The boss was taken by Roll20 within such a close time manner that I'm just looking for who gets the win condition and where, other than just the one death fight. Can somebody force it elsewhere? And, oh man, clone down.
Cleanse was forced, but the clone was also used.
Roll20 should be looking to force something. Like having the clone down this late, I guess they do have Hive Mind. One thing to consider, Abathur is like, he waits till the 10 till he gets clone, and then when he hits 20, if he goes Hive Mind, he's not nearly as long as you've got 2 good hat targets, he's not nearly as clone dependent. He very much is a threat with that, especially with the stab that we see instead of the mule. Suddenly double hat Hive Mind is really, really scary. And so I guess naturally I would be like, Roll20 should force here. I'm suddenly second guessing myself, seeing the build of the Abathur and appreciate the patience they're displaying.
20 seconds until Team Freedom will have that heroic ability up. Other than that, the timing, or the timer, is always on hook.
16 seconds.
8 to 11 core health, only 1 ultra this phase. This would set back either team a lot if they lose this.
Odin.
Dahaka is stalking into the back. Collusion may be in trouble. He's going to go right after Collusion.
But he's survived. Glorung didn't get too much pressure. They forced the eye block. Now Glorung's so very low. Look at the clone getting so much damage. Collusion drops the bolt and the Twilight there, and they have found themselves Prismaticism, but they're not done. Cure is trying to get another reset. Goku somehow surviving at barely with no HP, and the members of Roll20
there it is.
Not stop the bleeding. Cure missing that reset, but
Takes
still
out
gets
Greymane.
a kill.
So 3 kills now, and Alter behind. They had the cocoon again at the beginning of that fight, and once Justin started his gorge, immediately cocoon at the other side. See how Justin's trying to die as fast as he possibly can? That is how scary staggered deaths can be. He just wanted to make sure that he's back up with his team because they have 4 health left on their core.
All right, with 4 HP, we have a 48-second counter on the top boss. Everyone would be alive. There's only a 3-second difference between Stitches and that boss. You know, it's even better that that lined up that way, Gilly, because imagine if he had waited those, I mean, it's just wait 5 to 6 more seconds. If he ran away and Team Freedom had waited that out, suddenly you have no Stitches over the win condition in the game. But obviously this double sapper's got to be something to attend to. So much so that Freedom might be able to get a split with a clone and half do boss.
There is no Stitches, which means there's no Gorge to try to pull someone in here for a free win with the kill zone. This is a scary spot for Roll20 at this point, but Team Freedom hoping that they can get a victory. They're first in the series. Goku steps in, zoning away a lot of the members. We've got the double Genji now with Nazmus cloning. He's going to get into the back.
No shots have made it into the core yet. That's the first sapper wave. Second one, no win condition remaining now with the sappers.
1, 2, 3.
1 shot left on the core. Hook. Dansky, they need a reset. 3-man knock up the cleanses there. Prismat, he is dead. Beautiful Twilight Dream again coming out from Collusion, and now it looks like that is the beginning of the end for Roll20.
Man, Team Freedom, anytime someone got hooked, but there you can see how hard they have worked to develop their synergy. That Dansky gets hooked and pulled in, and immediately Collusion is there for a Twilight Dream. Immediately Zugrug is there, Burrow charging in to save his teammate. Cure is there too, and in the end, even though it was the hook landing on Dansky, a prime target for that on Tychus, it's still Leeming that falls. Leeming down for 30 more seconds, and Alter is spawning in 7. Team Freedom ripe to take this game.
Roll20 has to make the impossible happen if they want to end this series here. Collusion is the man who starts the channel. He's down his Twilight Dream for another 40 seconds. That's something to keep in mind here.
Collusion steps behind Zugrug, who gets dragged in, but that is A-okay. Collusion stays safe from Goku. Greymane taken out. That's the beginning of the end for Roll20. Stitches is found as well. Team Freedom taking down. They've got the hungry, or no, they don't. It's actually the hardened shield. Dahaka and Stitches fall. Team Freedom are going to be able to channel the Alter and take game 3. Eventually.
How many players from Team Freedom does it take to right-click an Alter? Because that was the question we just answered. Obviously a little bit more than you would expect, but eventually they got it figured out. That is now game 4 is what we're moving on to. And, you know, I have to say, I feel like Roll20's got to be second-guessing the Abathur, you know, slip through there onto the draft. The lack of priority and the fact that you just transitioned a first-pick Genji and you weren't denying the Abathur. I feel like it was confidence that they were like, they don't think that some assortment, again, due to the lack of overlap or the small overlap of the hero pools on the side of Team Freedom. But in the end, they were just like, nope, we've got Abathur, we've got the Genji. We don't need much else.
Yeah, Abathur was really strong in that composition, not only because of the double Genji, but we even saw some double Tychus too, just for the extra damage in the backline. So Abathur worked really well in Team Freedom's composition, and Freedom gets a win in this series. In game number 3, they're still down 1-2, but they get their first victory. Now we see if Roll20 feels like they need to make any drafting adjustments.
You know, oh man, this is going to be a really neat one because now the maps get a little bit weird. We've gotten past all the small stuff. We're only left to the, you know, bigger, you have to be able to take us and go into team fights. We already know that Roll20, it's not that it's out of their arsenal, but a little bit awkward maybe if they were moving to the Abathur direction. And so I'm excited. I think Abathur is going to be very suddenly, you know, now that Freedom got their first win, big maps are available, and obviously the double Genji is a threat. Now Freedom has a tool to have leverage in the draft over Roll20 for the first time.
Yeah, whether they can try to abuse the globals too, knowing that Roll20 wants to have Dahaka. They really want to have that. If they have to ban Abathur too, they may be able to abuse that a little bit and get some really good setup for the next game, which I think will probably end up being on Sky Temple. Roll20 likely to get first pick, and then in that instance, Freedom has picked Sky quite a bit in the past.
Yeah, they have been prioritizing that. And surprise, it's a big map where team fighting thrives. You know, that's a priority for Freedom. I want to say that because it's their pick, if they go to the Sky Temple, I would feel like it's a slight edge to their favor. But again, Roll20 is not a team that is afraid of team fighting. They are totally okay with going toe-to-toe with Team Freedom. A lot of it just comes down to drafting choices, I feel.
So the Stitches Medivh. Medivh wasn't allowed along with the Stitches. You think we're still going to see high priority of Stitches from Roll20? Or do you think they will want to move out elsewhere? It does seem like they're very focused on Zugrug.
Stitches stay. I don't think there's any world where that changes. Just because of how hard it feels like Team Freedom has prioritized the hero. It does a lot with the synergies that they have overall. But I do feel like the priority of, like, for instance, the Kilthos and the Malfurion that we saw on the Dragonshire map, that less into the kill comp and more into just general Stitches is just our frontliner. That's okay. And everything else, you know, the hook is a convenience, not the focal point of your composition, you know? And I think if we see that in a draft, Roll20 will be a lot more dominant. The minute they become pressurizing Justin to be the one to clutch it out on the hooks, they're not a team that gets away with that. Even though you would think they would be the best, right? They were the ones who innovated with the Diablo Medivh and ran it more clean than almost any other team you could expect. Like, see, they were just overly synergistic. And then when you get, like, some, you know, taken from a bit of the other regions, it's a little bit harder for them to pick up.
The Stitches for them has been rough. Whenever Zugrug gets